Hello friends, I hope you're all doing well. My name is Brian, and today we're going to look at a few more stories from Reddit. If you enjoy Reddit stories, why not hit like, subscribe, and maybe even the notification bell. And now, let's move on to the first story of the day. With love, my friends. Throwaway for obvious reasons, and I've changed everyone's names in our city because my family has the investigative skills of retired spies with Facebook. Hi, I'm Maya, 24F, from Bluebridge, and I recently did the unthinkable. I started dating my childhood friend Eli, 26M. We've been official for 4 months, but we only just told our families. The backstory is half the point, so buckle up. Our moms, Carla, my mom, and Adele, his, grew up together. When I was 8, my family moved 3 streets over from Adele's little blue house with the creaky porch swing. Because our moms were glued at the hip, all us kids basically got handed to one another like group projects. Eli has a twin sister, Juno, and I've got an older sister, Tori, 26F. Tori and Juno bonded fast, same taste in playlists, same snarky jokes, same allergy to muddy shoes. Meanwhile, Eli and I got feral over Mario Kart and dog-eared paperbacks. He swears he's the king of Bowser's Castle. I maintain that I've lapped him on Rainbow Road so many times it should count as community service. High school scattered us a bit. Different schools, different circles. We still met up to catch movie premieres, hit the fair when the funnel cake stand rolled into town, and once tried camping like we were outdoorsy. That experiment lasted approximately 1 mosquito-ridden night. Tori and Juno came, declared the woods a conspiracy, and never came again. Fine. Not everyone enjoys sleeping in a damp polyester burrito. When Eli turned 18, he joined the Maritime Rescue Service. Think Coast Guard vibes, but with less PR and more coffee in dented thermoses. He shipped out and started a life measured by charts and storms. We wrote the kind of emails that accidentally turned into essays. We sent each other memes at ungodly hours. On rough weeks, I mailed him brownies that arrived as chocolate gravel, which he claims was still top-tier morale. He served 8 years. 8. In that time I went from community college to a job I like, collected too many plants, and became the kind of person who brings a book everywhere just in case. He came home this spring with a deeper tan, a few new scars he shrugs off, and that quiet steadiness that either comes from the ocean or from growing up. Maybe both. He's thinking about signing on for 4 more years. I'm trying not to think of the calendar math. His first week back, he texted, "Mom keeps raving about this new bakery." You, me, sugar? As if I've ever turned down pastry. We met at Butter Plus Anchor, where the croissants are flaky enough to require hazard pay. Halfway through an almond one, he blurted, "I like you." Like you. Would you want to? And suddenly I was inhaling almond shrapnel and nodding, coughing, simultaneously mortified and thrilled. He apologized for proposing mid-chew, which is now an inside joke every time one of us starts a serious topic with food in our mouth. We agreed to keep it quiet for a minute. Not because we were sneaking around, but because our mothers are human confetti cannons. Also, our families are interconnected. If one person sneezes, 12 people argue about tissues. 4 months felt like enough of a test run. We were steady. Easy. Better than easy, actually, like the feeling when a song you loved as a kid comes on and you still know every word. So when Adele invited everyone over for her Sunday roast, the kind where the house smells like rosemary for days, Eli and I decided that was our moment. 1 announcement, 2 families, minimal reheating of leftovers. The plan was to wait until dessert, when everyone would be mellow and full. We even practiced how to say it without sounding like we were asking permission. We arrived early, helped set out the mismatched plates, chopped carrots, and tried not to make too much eye contact. Tori was already there, laughing with Juno in the sunlit kitchen, both of them in matching effortless ponytails that probably took 20 minutes. I kissed my mom's cheek, hugged Adele, and got nudged toward the living room by Eli with a sly little grin that said, "We've got this." Dinner was loud in the best way, stories over the hum of the oven, clinking glasses, jokes that have been told 100 times and still land. I don't know if the room felt warmer because of the roast or because I kept waiting for the moment our little secret would become public, like watching the tide creep up the sand and knowing it'll eventually touch your toes. When the plates were stacked and Adele set down a berry crumble, Eli squeezed my hand under the table. This was it, the sweet spot between savory and chaos. The dinner at Mrs. Reyes' house was supposed to be one of those warm, low-stakes Sunday evenings. You know the kind, big pot roast on the table, laughter bouncing around the dining room, everyone comfortably sinking into that post-meal lull where conversation drifts from family gossip to half-serious debates about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Mark and I figured it was the perfect moment to share our news. Our moms were already glowing from a glass of wine each, the twins were distracted with dessert, and the mood couldn't have been more relaxed. So when Mark reached over, squeezed my hand under the table, and announced, "We've actually got something to tell you guys, we're dating," I was braced for happy squeals. I wasn't wrong, at least not at first. My mom's face lit up like Christmas morning. Mrs. Reyes clapped her hands together and pulled me into the kind of hug only a woman who's known you since braces and bad bangs can give. Everyone at the table chuckled, teased, asked the usual "how long has this been going on?" questions. It felt natural. It felt right. But apparently, it didn't feel right to my sister. I didn't notice her mood until later, when I slipped into the kitchen for a glass of water. Mia was already there, leaning against the counter like she'd been waiting to pounce. "How could you?" she hissed before I even reached the fridge. My first thought was that she was mad I snagged the last slice of pie earlier. But no, she meant Mark. She launched into this tirade about me stealing the guy she liked, how I must have known all along and gone behind her back. I stood there frozen, water glass in my hand, because this was literally the first time I'd heard anything about her liking Mark. She'd never dropped a hint, not to me, not even to Jess, his twin, who I later asked. I tried to explain that, but Mia wasn't having it. She doubled down, claiming I'd done it on purpose, that I'd been waiting all these years to snatch him away from her. Her voice rose, echoing through the kitchen, until finally she spun on her heel and stormed out the back door, letting it slam behind her so hard the windows rattled. Back at the table, everyone looked around like, what was that about? My mom followed me into the kitchen, demanding to know what happened. When I told her, she blinked in disbelief, she hadn't known either. Jess was just as baffled, swearing Mia had never said a word. And Mark? Poor guy was blindsided. He told me the most Mia ever did was send him generic Happy New Year or Merry Christmas texts while he was in the Coast Guard. Still, by the time dessert plates were cleared, the fallout had already started. Mia had vanished, and by that night, she'd stopped answering my calls altogether. The high from our cute little announcement lasted about 12 minutes. After Tori's kitchen slam and storm, the house felt off, like someone had opened a window in January. People tried to keep chatting, but the air had that thin sound silence gets when everyone's pretending not to eavesdrop. Adele Reyes, for the record, which is why half the neighborhood calls her Mrs. Reyes pulled me into another hug and whispered, "We love you." My mom, Carla, asked if I was okay in that careful voice moms use when they are actively not panicking. Eli squeezed my knee under the table like a metronome. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. For continuity's sake, and because my brain hates confusion, Eli's full name is Elias Marcus Rivera. Adele slips and calls him Marcus or Mark when she's feeling nostalgic or bossy. His twin, Juno, lets classmates call her Jess because she says Juno makes people do that like the movie, Face. And my sister, Victoria, has answered to Tori forever, but our grandmother used to call her Mia, short for Amalia, and sometimes it pops out when emotions run hot. Family names are a whole ecosystem, I don't make the rules. Anyway, once the dishes were stacked and the berry crumble was vapor, the debrief started. Mom hadn't known anything. Juno, sorry, just to people outside family, swore she hadn't either. Eli looked lost. She sends me holiday texts, he said, brow furrowed. Like a sparkler emoji on New Year's. That's it. I believed him. We've spent years telling each other the boring parts of our days, he wouldn't skip the dramatic ones now. By morning, the group chat was a cooking pot. A couple mutual friends had decided I must be psychic and therefore evil for not knowing Tori liked him. One of them actually typed girl code, which made me snort into my coffee because apparently the code includes mind reading. I typed and deleted 3 replies, opted for silent mode, and went to work with a lump in my throat I didn't want to examine. 2 days later, my phone lit up with a call from Mom. She was crying before hello. "Your sister," she started, and my stomach did that elevator drop thing. Turns out Tori had called to ask about Leo's birthday party. My little brother is turning 11 and has been measuring time and sleeps. We promised him that if he kept AB average all year, we'd take him and 5 friends to Arcadium, which is basically if an arcade and a diner had a neon baby. He earned it, big grin and all. Tori asked if I and Eli would be there. Mom said yes, because 1. I helped pay, 2. Leo worships Eli, hero with a uniform, even if Eli downplays it as boats and boredom. That's when Tori asked Mom to tell me not to come. Not could we stagger arrival times, not I need a minute, but ban Maya from her own brother's party because she did the one thing she knew would gut me. Mom told her no. Gently at first, then firmly. She said the party was for Leo, not for anybody's vendetta, and we're not excluding his favorite people from his favorite day. Apparently, Tori started yelling about betrayal, about how everyone always takes my side, about how Mom must love me more. My stepdad, Ron, tried to intervene, and she turned the volume on him too before hanging up and texting that she wouldn't be attending the party at all for her mental health. I sat on the floor with that news buzzing in my ears, staring at the dust bunnies under my couch like they would offer guidance. Eli handed me a glass of water and waited until I drank before asking, "What do you want to do?" I wanted to do everything and nothing. Text Tori 1,000 times and also delete her contact. Bake the world's largest cake and hide inside it. Instead I said the only true thing I had, "We're going to Arcadium. It's Leo's day." Juno texted separately, "What on earth?" followed by a train of whale emojis that somehow read as sincere concern. She offered to run interference at the party, to stick to Leo like glue and keep things light. Adele told me she'd keep an eye on Carla so my mom didn't spend the day apologizing for choices that aren't hers. I love these people. I hate that my sister is so furious she can't even see the 11-year-old at the center. That night, I drafted and redrafted a message to Tori. I landed on simple and kind, "I love you. I didn't know. I won't apologize for loving Eli, but I'm sorry you're hurting. I hope you come for Leo, he'll miss you if you don't." She left it on read. The pit in my stomach hardened into something like resolve. I didn't steal anyone. I said yes to the person who asked me. And on Saturday, we were going to eat too much pizza under a ceiling full of LED stars, and I was going to cheer until I lost my voice when Leo beat Eli at skee-ball, which he always, gloriously, does. The fallout didn't stop at that Sunday dinner. If anything, that night was just the spark that lit a much bigger fire. By Monday, word had spread through a few of our mutual friends that Mia was furious with me, and suddenly I was the villain in some imaginary soap opera. A couple of people even texted me things like, "You should have known, you're her sister," as if I had some secret telepathic insight into Mia's crushes. Honestly, the whole thing baffled me. Mark and I had history. Real history. Years of friendship, late-night talks, and the kind of inside jokes that only come from growing up side by side. Mia, on the other hand, had nothing beyond the occasional holiday text and shared family dinners. If she had feelings, she kept them so buried that not even Jess, her supposed best friend, picked up on them. Still, she decided I was the enemy. The drama reached a new low a week later. My little brother, Danny, was about to turn 11, and he'd been buzzing for months about his birthday deal. If he kept a solid B average all year, our parents promised to take him and a handful of friends to Skyline Arcade. He held up his end, so of course the party was happening. I'd even chipped in money to cover food and tokens, and Mark promised to come because Danny adored him. That's when Mia decided to pull the most selfish move yet. She called my mom and asked if she could maybe tell me not to come to the party. Not because she didn't want drama at Danny's event, but because she didn't want to feel uncomfortable. My mom, bless her, immediately shut that down. She told Mia point blank, "This isn't about you. It's Danny's birthday, and both your sister and Mark are going to be there because he wants them there." Apparently, Mia didn't take that well. She screamed at my mom over the phone, accusing her of choosing me over her and betraying her as a daughter. My stepdad tried to calm her down, but she turned her anger on him too before hanging up. My mom ended up calling me in tears, relaying the whole thing while trying to hold it together for Danny's sake. I won't lie, I was livid. Here was my sister, a grown 26-year-old woman, throwing a tantrum because her imaginary crush didn't pan out. And worse, she was willing to sabotage our little brother's big day over it. Danny had nothing to do with any of this, and yet she was making herself the victim and punishing him by refusing to come. Mark, for his part, offered to skip if it would make things easier, but I shut that down immediately. Danny loved him like an older brother, and there was no way I was letting Mia's theatrics ruin his celebration. In that moment, I realized something that stung. This wasn't about Mark at all. This was about Mia's need to always have things her way, to be the center of attention. And this time, she couldn't stand that someone else had a happiness she thought she was owed. The birthday was still on, and I was determined that Mia's tantrum wasn't going to overshadow it. But deep down, I had this gnawing pit in my stomach, because if she was willing to go nuclear over a crush she never admitted, what would she do next? Arcadium Day arrived with the kind of blue sky optimism you only get from an 11-year-old who earned it. For clarity, my little brother is Leon Daniel, which is why half the family calls him Danny. Kids collect nicknames like Pokemon. He woke up at dawn already wearing his birthday champion sash that he made out of masking tape. Mom brewed celebratory cinnamon coffee, Ron loaded the car with enough chips and soda to supply a small town, Adele texted a photo of a balloon arch she'd MacGyvered in 15 minutes because of course she did. We'd warned Leo ahead of time, gently, that Tori might not make it. Mom and I tag-teamed the conversation the night before. It's not about you, sometimes grown-ups have big feelings, we love you, and yes, the unlimited skee-ball promise still stands. He took it like a champ, just a tiny wrinkle in his forehead before he asked if Eli could stand next to him when he blew out the candles. He's good luck, Leo declared. Eli looked both honored and alarmed, which is his default around hero worship. Arcadium was a neon aquarium of chaos, kids darting like fish, bells dinging, the soft thump-thump of basketball hoops. Juno, just to the civilians, showed up with glittery face paint and turned Leo's friends into tiny superheroes within 15 minutes. Adele and Carla commandeered a long table and laid out pizza like a parade. Eli bought an obscene number of tokens and started losing to Leo immediately, which I'm 98% sure was on purpose and 2% sure was because Leo is a legitimate skee-ball prodigy. There was a pang when the cake came out. You know that little pause before everyone sings? The silence had an outline shaped like my sister. But then Leo sucked in a breath so dramatic he almost inhaled the candles and shouted, "Okay, sing now." And we did. He blew them out with Eli's hand lightly on his shoulder, and the ache softened into something closer to gratitude, like the universe was reminding me we can hold two truths in one chest. I missed my sister, and we were still allowed to be happy. A couple of mutuals hovered near the prize counter. One, Nadine, did the concerned head tilt and said, "You really didn't know?" I was tired of being assigned psychic duties. If knowing means she never said a word for 8 years, then yes, I knew nothing, I said, aiming for calm, not spicy. She mumbled something about girl code, and I decided to put my oxygen mask on first and walk away. By the time the last kid stumbled out with a plastic sword and a sugar high, Leo was glowing. He hugged Eli, sticky frosting cheek to crisp white tea, and whispered, "Best day." Okay, I teared up. Whatever. Back home, while we melted onto the couch, my phone pinged. A text from Tori, "Hope you enjoyed rubbing it in my face. I won't be part of a family that celebrates my humiliation." I stared at the bubbles like they might rearrange into reason. Eli read over my shoulder and said quietly, "Let me text her. I'll tell her I asked you out. That I've only ever wanted you to be the one." He'd said it before, but something about him offering to be the person who clears the smoke for me made my ribs loosen. "Okay," I said. "But be kind, even if she isn't." He nodded and typed, "Tori, I'm the one who asked Maya out. I wanted you to hear that from me. I respect you, but there wasn't a secret or a game. I hope we can all show up for Leo and for each other without making anyone the villain." She left him on read. I tucked my feet under Eli's leg, the way I do when I'm trying to feel steadier. The room hummed with dishwasher noise and leftover laughter. For a minute, the quiet was uncomplicated. Then my screen lit again, this time the family group chat exploding with a brand new message: emergency, family meeting. From Tori. Of course. I wish I could say the dinner announcement was the big explosion, the one dramatic scene that set everything in motion, but really, that was just the warm-up act. The fallout only started becoming clear in the days that followed. The next morning, I woke up to a string of texts from Mia. Half of them were long, messy paragraphs where she accused me of betraying her on purpose, and the other half were just angry one-liners like, "You knew, or you took him because you can't stand me being happy." I stared at my phone in bed, trying to decide if it was worth even replying. Mark was still asleep beside me, his arm draped lazily over my waist, completely unaware that his very existence in my bed was the reason my sister was unraveling. I didn't want to ruin our morning, but I also didn't want to ignore the chaos Mia was clearly set on unleashing. By the time I went downstairs for coffee, my mom had already called twice. When I finally picked up, her voice was tight and tired. She said Mia had called her in tears late at night, saying she felt betrayed by everyone and that nobody in the family respected her feelings. "Did you know she liked him?" Mom asked again, like maybe I changed my answer overnight. "No, Mom. I swear I had no idea. And honestly, if she liked him, she could have mentioned it sometime in the last decade." Mom sighed like she was holding something heavier than my words. "She says you've always been selfish about him." That one stung. I wanted to shout back, "Selfish?" I spent years writing to him while he was overseas, cheering him on, sending care packages, keeping his mom updated whenever Amy was too emotional to write. I was the one who stayed present when he was gone. How does that equal selfishness? But I swallowed it down because yelling at my mom wouldn't fix anything. Instead, I said, "She's rewriting history, and it's not fair." Later that week, Mark and I went to my younger brother Luke's soccer game, and I felt the chill before I even spotted Mia across the field. She was standing with a couple of our mutual friends, arms crossed, throwing me the kind of look that could curdle milk. I waved, just to be polite, and she turned her head away dramatically, whispering something to her friends that made them all smirk. Mark leaned down and whispered, "Ignore it. She's acting like a middle schooler." Easy for him to say. He wasn't the one being painted as the villain in group chats and whispered conversations. A mutual friend even messaged me later that night saying, "I don't know why you had to do me a dirty like that." Dirty? I hadn't done anything except say yes when the guy I cared about asked me out. By the end of that week, the family drama had escalated further. Mom called again, nearly crying, because Mia told her she wouldn't be attending Luke's upcoming birthday party if I was going to be there with Mark. My 11-year-old brother had been working his butt off for months to get good grades so he could earn his big birthday trip to the arcade, and now Mia wanted me to stay home for her comfort. Mom, to her credit, told her no. She said, "This is Luke's birthday, not your battleground." But Mia didn't take it well. She apparently screamed at both Mom and our stepdad, accusing them of choosing sides, before hanging up on them. When Mom told me all this, I could feel the knot of frustration tightening in my chest. She's 26 years old, not 16. At some point, she has to realize you can't claim dibs on a human being. Mark, hearing all this, just shook his head. I haven't even talked to her outside of holiday texts for years. I don't get it. Why now? Neither did I. And yet, I could see how this was snowballing into something bigger than just me and him. Mia had decided this was her hill to die on, and she was dragging everyone in the family along with her. I had a choice to make: keep apologizing for something I didn't do, or start pushing back. And as much as I wanted peace, part of me was getting really tired of pretending her tantrums had any logic behind them. The group chat invite sat there like a live grenade: emergency, family meeting. Everyone. Tomorrow at 7. Tori had never called a family meeting in her life. Our family doesn't meet. We run into each other in kitchens, argue while chopping onions, talk things out on the porch swing. Formality is reserved for funerals and Dad's annual tax panic. So when she dropped that text, even Ron, the eternal peacemaker, responded with a confused, "What's going on?" No reply. Just Tori's read receipt glowing like a dare. The next evening, I pulled into Mom's driveway with Eli beside me. He'd offered to skip, but I told him no, we weren't hiding, not anymore. Mom's car was already there, Ron's truck, Adele's little hatchback, and even Juno's scooter parked diagonally across the grass. It looked like a reunion, but the air smelled like rain and tension. Inside, everyone was gathered in the living room. Mom looked wrung out, Adele held a mug of tea she wasn't drinking, Juno was perched cross-legged on the armchair scrolling nervously on her phone. And Tori stood in the center like she was about to deliver a PowerPoint. "Thanks for coming," she started, as if we'd had a choice. "I just need to clear the air because things have been unbearable since Maya decided to," she paused, eyes flicking at Eli. "Take something that wasn't hers." I opened my mouth, but Eli squeezed my hand. "Let her talk." Tori launched into a monologue that sounded rehearsed. According to her, she'd been in love with Eli for years, she'd been waiting for the right time, and I had swooped in knowing exactly what it would do to her. She called me selfish, manipulative, and my favorite, a sister saboteur. Juno actually snorted at that, which earned her a death glare. I tried to stay calm. "Tori, he's not a pair of shoes you forgot to buy. He's a person. A person who asked me out." "You knew how I felt," she snapped. "No, I didn't," I said firmly. "And neither did anyone else, apparently. Not Mom. Not Juno. Not even Eli. You never said anything." She flailed for ground. "I shouldn't have had to. Sisters are supposed to know." That's when Eli finally spoke. His voice was steady, but his jaw was tight. "Tori, I respect you, but I don't like you that way. I never have. I asked Maya out because she's who I want to be with. That's the beginning and end of it." For a second, silence filled the room so completely I could hear the fridge hum in the kitchen. Mom's eyes were glassy, Adele rubbed her temple, and Juno muttered, finally, under her breath. Tori's face crumpled, not into tears, but into fury. "You're all against me. Every single one of you. I'm the only one telling the truth, and you're punishing me for it." She grabbed her bag, stormed toward the door, and flung out one last grenade, "Don't call me until you're ready to admit you ruined everything." Then she was gone, door slamming like thunder. The rest of us sat there in the wreckage. Mom whispered, "What do we even do?" Ron rubbed her shoulder, looking exhausted. Adele leaned over and hugged me, murmuring, "You did nothing wrong." Juno, ever the chaos commentator, just said, "Well, that was dramatic." Eli and I drove home in silence, the windshield wipers beating out a rhythm. Finally he said, "You know this isn't about me, right? This is about her needing to feel owed something. And you don't owe her." I wanted to believe him. But as the rain blurred the streetlights into gold smears, I couldn't shake the sinking feeling that my sister had declared war, and I was the only one she wanted as her opponent. After the so-called family meeting, Tori went radio silent. No texts, no calls, no showing up at Mom's for coffee like she normally did on Sundays. At first, I thought maybe she just needed to cool off, take a week to stew, realize how overblown it all was, and then crawl back with a half-hearted apology. That was the script I expected. But instead of simmering down, she escalated by disappearing. Mom tried calling daily, leaving voicemails that got progressively more teary. Ron even drove by her apartment once to check in, only for her to refuse to answer the door. Juno texted her 3 times, all left on read. Adele called me in frustration one evening, saying, "It's like she's punishing the whole family because she didn't get her way." I wanted to agree, but it didn't feel like punishment so much as sabotage. She was twisting the knife by withholding herself, making everyone miserable. The timing was terrible too, because Leo's birthday party was barreling closer, and Mom was terrified Tori would cause a scene or worse, actually follow through on her threat not to come. 11-year-olds don't exactly understand sibling wars, they just know when someone they love is missing. Meanwhile, mutual friends kept whispering in my ear. "She really liked him, Maya, you should have noticed." Or, "Couldn't you have backed off when you realized?" Backed off? As if my relationship with Eli was some trivial hobby I could just swap out, like knitting. Eli, bless him, try to be diplomatic. Maybe she just needs time. Some people get stuck on an idea and can't let it go right away. He was trying to soften it, but I could see the tension in his shoulders every time her name came up. He hated the drama as much as I did. Then, 3 days before the party, Mom called me sobbing. Tori had officially told her she wasn't coming at all, not just skipping the cake, not just avoiding Eli, but boycotting Leo's entire birthday because she refused to be in the same room as a traitor. Her words, not mine. Leo overheard, of course. Kids always do. Mom found him sulking in his room later, asking if he'd done something wrong. She reassured him it had nothing to do with him, but the damage was done. He looked up at me later with those wide, 11-year-old eyes and asked, "Why doesn't Tori want to see me anymore?" I wanted to strangle her right then and there. I ended up sitting cross-legged on his floor, promising him we'd still make the day amazing. You're going to crush Eli at skee-ball, eat more pizza than your stomach can handle, and win enough tickets to get that ridiculous stuffed shark you've been eyeing. Tori's loss if she doesn't show up. He smiled weakly, but it wasn't the same. It hurt knowing her tantrum had bled onto him. That night, Eli found me pacing in our kitchen. "She's not coming, is she?" I muttered. "Doesn't sound like it," he admitted. "So she's really going to punish an 11-year-old because she's mad at me?" He set down the dish towel he'd been drying with and pulled me into his chest. "Then let her. If she wants to miss out on her little brother's big day because of a fantasy relationship she never admitted, that's on her. Not you." I pressed my forehead into his shirt, trying to let his steadiness soak into me. He was right. But it didn't stop the ache in my chest, the ache of knowing my sister had chosen pride over family, and dragged everyone else into the fallout. And the party? It was still going to happen. With or without her. The day of Leo's party felt like one of those Saturdays where the air buzzes with kid-level excitement. He woke up at dawn, already wearing the goofy birthday MVP sash he made with duct tape and a Sharpie. By the time I got to Mom's, he was bouncing on the porch, yelling about how he was going to bankrupt Arcadium with tickets. Inside, the house was a whirlwind. Mom was stress frosting cupcakes even though we were headed to the arcade. Ron was wrangling balloons that refused to fit into the trunk. Adele showed up early to help, and Eli carried in a stack of pizzas that smelled like molten cheese heaven. Everyone was moving in happy chaos, except for the quiet absence of one person. No Tori. I'd already made my peace with it, but I kept catching Mom glancing at the door like maybe she'd change her mind and show up last minute with a sheepish smile. She didn't. Instead, Mom's phone buzzed 10 minutes before we left, a short text from Tori, "Don't expect me there. I'm not part of this circus." Mom's face fell, but she didn't say anything. She just slipped her phone in her pocket and kept tying balloon strings with shaking hands. Arcadium, though, didn't care about missing sisters or family drama. It was all neon lights, buzzing machines, and the smell of fryer oil. Leo ran in like a general leading his troops, 6 friends trailing behind him with wide eyes and pockets full of tokens. Jess had come armed with face paint and glitter, and within 20 minutes, the entire crew looked like a superhero squad ready to take on the claw machines. Eli dove right in, losing spectacularly at skee-ball, air hockey, and a racing game where he somehow managed to crash before the countdown even hit 0. The kids loved it. They hooped and cheered every time he lost, and Leo was glowing, beaming with pride at beating a real-life Coast Guard guy. For a few blissful hours, I forgot about Tori. The laughter, the sugar, the flashing lights, it was impossible not to get swept up in it. Even Mom relaxed, clapping when Leo finally racked up enough tickets for the monstrous stuffed shark he'd been dreaming about. He carried it around like a trophy, nearly bigger than him, shouting, "Best birthday ever." But then came cake time. The lights dimmed, the candles flickered, and as everyone started singing, I felt it. That empty chair in the corner. That pause right before the last line of Happy Birthday where everyone looks around to make sure the whole family's singing. Leo blew out the candles with Eli's steadying hand on his shoulder, but I caught the flicker of something in his eyes, missing someone who wasn't there. After the cake, while the kids were running wild, I snuck outside for some air. Eli followed, leaning against the wall beside me. "She didn't even text him, did she?" he asked softly. I shook my head. Not a word. He sighed. That's not on you, Maya. She made her choice. I wanted to believe it was that simple. But part of me couldn't stop thinking of Leo's little face when he looked around the table. He might forget the neon lights and the claw machines one day, but he'd remember the chair that stayed empty. That night, after the chaos settled and the house smelled like melted wax and leftover frosting, Mom finally let herself cry. I don't understand her anymore, she whispered, shoulders shaking. Ron wrapped his arms around her, Adele rubbed her back, and I just sat there with a knot in my chest. Because the truth hit me then, this wasn't just about me and Eli anymore. Tori wasn't just punishing me. She was punishing all of us. And something told me this was only the beginning. If I thought Tori had reached peak drama by skipping Leo's birthday, I was wrong. That was just her opening act. The week after the party, things were eerily quiet. Too quiet. No texts, no cryptic posts, no angry voicemails. Mom actually said, maybe she's calming down, in this hopeful little voice. I didn't buy it. With Tori, silence meant plotting. And sure enough, the storm hit on a Wednesday evening. I was making dinner when my phone buzzed, group chat notification. Tori had tagged the entire family, plus a few cousins who didn't need to be dragged into this mess, in a massive message. It read like a manifesto. I refuse to be part of a family that enables betrayal. Maya knew I loved Eli. She took him anyway. You all chose to side with her instead of me. Don't contact me until you're ready to acknowledge the truth. I will not be attending any more family events where she or Eli are present. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have a sister anymore. I swear, my fork clattered into the sink loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Eli read it over my shoulder and muttered, "Wow. That's a lot." Mom called me 30 seconds later, in full meltdown mode. She kept saying things like, "How did it get this far?" and she's acting like she's been cheated out of a marriage, not a crush. Ron tried to take the phone, but she wouldn't let go. Adele texted separately, "Don't engage. She wants a reaction." Still, it was hard not to. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, itching to fire back something scathing. But what good would it do? She'd already decided the narrative. She was the victim, I was the villain, and Eli was the prize stolen off a shelf. Logic wasn't going to change her mind. What did hurt, what I couldn't shake, was her line about not having a sister anymore. We've fought before, sure, but never like this. Never so final. I thought about every shared sleepover, every whispered joke under blankets, every time we'd huddled together as kids when the thunder got too loud. And now? All gone because of a man she never even dated. Eli must have read the look on my face because he put down the knife he was chopping with and said quietly, "She's rewriting history to protect her pride. That doesn't erase the real history you two had. She's choosing distance. That doesn't make you the bad guy." It helped a little, but the ache stayed. The next blow came a few days later when Mom told me Tori had blocked her. Blocked Ron. Even blocked Leo, our 11-year-old brother, on his little tablet. He cried when he told me, holding it up to show me the message failed screen. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked again, and this time I didn't even have words. That was the moment I stopped feeling guilty and started getting angry. Not because she was hurting me, though she was, but because she was hurting him. He didn't deserve to lose his big sister over a fantasy she'd built in her head. So I made a choice. I wasn't going to chase her anymore. No more apologizing for things I didn't do, no more trying to mend fences she was gleefully setting on fire. If she wanted to cut herself off, fine. But I wasn't going to let her drag the rest of us into her spiral. Mom cried when I said it out loud. "I don't want to lose either of my girls," she whispered. "You're not losing me," I told her. "But you can't keep letting her hold us hostage with her tantrums. She's an adult. She's making her choices." That night, Eli and I sat on the couch, and I let myself breathe for the first time in weeks. Because finally, I wasn't carrying the guilt anymore. But even as I let it go, I knew this wasn't the end. With Tori, there was always another storm waiting just beyond the horizon. The final straw came sooner than I expected. It was 2 weeks after Leo's birthday. Life had started to feel almost normal again: school drop-offs, work deadlines, random late-night donut runs with Eli. I was finally unclenching my jaw when my phone buzzed with a notification that made my stomach twist. Tori had posted on Facebook. Now, she never posts anything personal. Usually it's memes about coffee or reposted cat videos. But this time? A full-on essay. She wrote about betrayal by blood, about losing the man she loved to her own sister, about families that pick sides. She didn't mention our names, but she didn't have to. Everyone in our circle knew who she meant. The comments exploded. Half of them were mutual acquaintances offering sympathy, clearly buying her narrative. Others were awkward yikes reactions. And then came the messages, friends asking me what happened, coworkers tiptoeing around me at the office. My private life was suddenly public gossip, all because my sister couldn't stand that Eli and I had chosen each other. I felt sick. But more than that, I felt done. I didn't respond to the post. I didn't message her. I didn't even bother defending myself in the comments. Instead, I did something that felt like tearing off a bandage: I blocked her. Not just on Facebook, but everywhere. Phone, socials, everything. It wasn't revenge. It was survival. When I told Mom, she cried again, of course. She wanted to believe this was just a phase, that eventually her daughters would reconcile. But I had to be honest: Mom, I can't keep letting her torch every part of my life because she's mad at me for not being a mind reader. I need peace. Eli supported me completely. You're allowed to protect yourself, he said, and I believed him. For the first time, I believed I wasn't the villain in someone else's story. And Leo? Sweet, 11-year-old Leo clutched his giant stuffed shark and whispered, "It's okay, Maya. I've still got you." That was when it hit me: family isn't always the people who share your DNA. Sometimes it's the ones who show up, who choose to be there. Eli chose me. Mom and Ron chose to support us. Adele and Juno chose kindness instead of drama. Even Leo, in his kid-sized way, chose love over anger. Tori had chosen pride. And maybe one day she'd regret it. Maybe she'd reach out. Maybe she wouldn't. But I couldn't hold my breath waiting. So, am I the villain? No. I didn't steal anyone. I said yes when the right person asked me. The rest: my sister's jealousy, her tantrums, her need to make herself the victim, that's her burden to carry, not mine. For now, I've chosen my peace. I've chosen Eli. And I've chosen to stop apologizing for something that was never my crime. And honestly, that feels like winning. So much for being here. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care. And much love.